Some of us say we're strong, but if we're honest, we're really just scared. And later in this episode, I'm going to share the moments that I realized I was calling fear strength in my own life. We say things like, I'm good on my own. I'm focused on myself. I don't need nobody. And sometimes that's true. But sometimes it's not strength. Sometimes it's protection. I've had moments where I told myself I was being strong, but really I was just protecting myself from being hurt again. Because once you've been hurt in a certain way, it changes how you move. You start guarding your emotions differently. You start telling yourself, I'm not going through that again. So, instead of being open, you become careful. Careful with your time, careful with your emotions, careful with how much you give. And eventually you start calling that strength. Like, no, I'm not closed off. I just have boundaries. And listen, boundaries are healthy. Boundaries are healthy. But some of us don't stop at boundaries. We built walls. Then we added gates around the walls. And then we turned around and added security cameras. Some of us built an emotional security system like we protecting the Pentagon. And notice I said us. And the crazy thing is, we start convincing ourselves that that's growth. But sometimes it's just fear in disguise. And here's something else most people don't realize. Fear in relationships doesn't always show up as avoidance. Sometimes it shows up in a way we don't recognize it at first. And I want to talk about that for a minute. You say you want love, right? But when it starts to feel real, you pull back. You start overthinking. You start questioning intentions. You start wondering, what did they mean by that? What did they say it like that for? Now, you're analyzing the text message like it's a group project. Breaking it down word by word. What did they mean by okay? Yeah, with this face. Because let's be honest, okay and okay are two completely conversations. They two completely different conversations. Completely different. Y'all know what I mean. And meanwhile, the other person is just living their life completely unaware that you've already created a whole emotional situation in your head. But here's the truth: some of us are not strong, we're just scared and calling it strength. That fear didn't come from nowhere. Sometimes it came from disappointment. Sometimes it came from trusting someone and having that trust broken. And after that happens, you start moving differently. You start thinking, I'll never let somebody get that close to me again. But when we close ourselves off from pain, we also close ourselves off from love. And this is where faith becomes really important, because the way fear and faith show up in love is completely different. You can't fully experience love while trying to control it. Love requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires trust. And not just trust in people, but trust in God. Because at some point, you have to trust that even if things don't go the way you hoped, God can still carry you through it. You can't ask God for love and then reject it when it shows up. Like sitting there praying, Lord, send me somebody, Lord. And then here comes somebody. And he shows up, and you're like, wait, Lord, not like this. So the real question becomes this: are you actually strong, or are you afraid? You don't have to rush love. You don't have to force connections, but you do have to stay open, because sometimes the very thing you're praying for is standing in front of you, and fear is telling you to run. Okay, in the next episode, we're talking about why healing can feel lonely. This is Sass with Faith, real feelings, real faith, real life, and I'm with Girl Cam. Thanks for tuning in.